Hi, Tim Sales here with a quick video. I'm going to answer two viewer questions. One of these happened to be in YouTube and the other one happened to be in another app called Telegram. And the first one is, how did you evaluate network marketing and decide it over what you were doing? So I was in U.S. Navy Special Operations and I wanted something different. I had to do a side-by-side comparison, a mind map, and I'm going to show you how I did that mind map. And number two is, how quickly can you change your identity? So how do I go from a spec ops operator into network marketing, and how quickly does it happen? So that's what I'm going to answer today. Okay, so how I made my decision. I use a mind map. This is a mind map, and I'll explain it in just a second. When I'm trying to evaluate too many things at once. Okay, so you know how when you're looking at something and, maybe, you go to bed and you try to sleep and you just keep having these circling thoughts. Well, what about this and what about that and blah, 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 blah. All right, that stuff drives you crazy, right? All right, so the way I do it is that I put the main topic right in the center and I circle it. So I have a Jamboard like this in my office. And so I mind map all the time, okay? And I like to put it into the concept of B, which is identity. What does it take, right? And then over here is do. What do I need to do? And then over here is have. Okay, and so each one of these this right here is just be, do, have. I circle those. And then I just let my mind run, but I have a category. Okay, so it's a category of, I branch off just different directions, I create and so forth. And sometimes I can fill up 4 pages on a board. And so that's what a mind map is. And so the way that I ran this one, and this was back in 1989, and so I said, be. All right, so what do I love to be? Well, I love my country. That's why I like being in Spec Ops. I love the U.S. Navy. That's why I'm in Spec Ops. I love being elite. That was the main thing. That's why I circled it in red, because it was the top dog, if you will. All right, I did the same thing over here. I love working with a team, okay? In the do side of the equation, I love diving. I love training with the team. So that whole concept here was running this way, what I love. But then I thought, well, wait a minute now. There's some things that I don't like, which is no control. I'm talking about my haircut. I'm talking about my uniform. I'm talking about the days I have to work, days I don't get off or get off. And then the senior one was that DC decides. It wasn't the best decision for Spec Ops, not necessarily all the time, but Washington, DC would make decisions that would then affect us, even if it would be much more risky to do it the way that they wanted to do it. Okay, then the have. All right, so I'll just drop down here. So little money, high risk. This was a very top dog for me, little money. Family, so it was a high risk job. So I defused bombs and jumped out of airplanes and deep sea diving and all kinds of stuff, okay? And so that was high risk to have a family, and I wanted to have a family. That was kind of what nudged me in the beginning. And then the outcomes, which was, I didn't necessarily like destruction. I wanted to be on the construction side of life, and I didn't want to destroy people's lives. Okay, so that's kind of the way I ran through this, and I did this in an earlier video, but I'm going to do something else this time. Okay, so this now is, I mapped it, and here are all of the steps that I go through to do that. So what do I like and dislike most? Using be, do, have. Number 2, where am I with that? So when something pops up, like DC decides, I say, where am I with that? How can I resolve that? Well, it's outside my control. That's the whole thing here. It's that, right? Right here, something came up. And that is, in the have side, I only have 9 more years. And I don't know, I think I was about 24, 25, something like that. when I'm having this discussion. And so that's, I only have 9 years and then I'll retire. Should I wait to do network marketing? That was the question that I asked. Where am I with that? Should I wait? Okay? So that's the thing. And then I said, wait a minute now. The guy that I went to see was a Dr. Hung Tai Wong, and he had been in the business for 2 years and was making $88,000 a month. And I was like, wait a minute now. In just a few months, I can make more money than I would make in my entire retirement. And so medical was another one because they offer medical after you retire, things like that. And so that I just ended up saying no factor. No factor is a short one for just, it's not going to bother us. We're not going to let it bother us. Okay? So where am I with that? Very, very important question to ask. You can think of this as a pros and cons list. You know how I think they call it the Ben Franklin way of doing thing. You part and say the cons are the pros and the cons, and you write both sides. But many of them have branches off of them. And so I've not found that as effective as a mind map. All right. So now I moved to network marketing. And so this is the comparison, evaluating and estimating what I will be stepping into. That's the new identity. I'd be stepping out of Spec Ops identity into network marketing identity. So number 2, ask, where am I with that? And number 3, no fear decisions. And this is very important when you're doing a mind map, is that you don't make decisions based upon fear. Just like that last one that I just showed you about no medical insurance. I'm going to let that thing bug me. No, I'm not. Okay, you don't make decisions out of fear. So you, in the other videos, I've talked about emanating and having an intention. Well, I'm after a goal, and a goal isn't fear. Okay, so that's the thing. So when I did this one, the B, it was what am I going to be? Well, I'd be doing the pipeline, so I'd have to be each column of the pipeline. So you generate a lead. So I would have to be a person who would generate a lead. And then I would contact the person. So I would have to be able to communicate. And then the next one all the way across the pipeline. Okay. And so I said, I need to learn that. And I circled it. It was a top dog. And then up here is I would train. Can do when I learn. So that's a no factor. That was the heavy one. That was the one that was like, that one I got to get done. All right. B, I wanted to be elite, just like I was in Spec Ops. And the way that I would accomplish that is to become a top earner. All right. So now we go over to do the pipeline. All right. So, I had the issue of advertising expenses. So I had a little bit of money in the Navy, but not a whole lot. So when I would have to run an ad in the Washington Post, that's where I lived at the time, then it would cost me money, but I didn't have a whole lot. And the deals, the best way to run an advertisement at that time was to buy like a year's worth. So you would buy 52 advertisements for every Saturday, for every weekend. All right. So I will go to the lead until I've earned advertising money, and then I will scale up from there. What that meant is that I would have to go to the lead. That means, like people in my phone, it was a Rolodex back then. I would go and join groups to clean up Biscayne Bay. I would, would walk around, pick up trash cans, but I would meet people. I would go to triathlons and marathons and all kinds of things like that, biking things. So I had to go to the lead instead of the lead coming to me. Once I had money, I'd be able to get leads coming to me. And so that right there would be the do. Do you see how I can now take this and put it into a plan? And that's why I like mind mapping so much. Okay. And then I would be doing one-on-ones up to 4. So bring some people to lunch or or something like that. I would do in-homes and then to hotels because that's where I was. And so I would gone to Rick's house, the guy who ran the ad in the newspaper, and then he had taken me to a meeting. And so that's how I knew those steps. Today, all of this would be Zooms unless the person lives near you. Okay. All right. And then the have, a lot of no's, right? I knew it because I asked Rick, what's the downside of this? And he said, well, you're going to get people who will tell you no. I said, and then what do? He goes, get another person. Nobody shooting at me? Good. All right. That was a no factor. I would have a team. That's a big asset. I know it because when I built my first business that was doing about $22 million in sales, when I retired, I was able to sell that asset. That was the team. I sold that asset back to the company 18 years later. And so that's the biggest asset. And then you make a lot more money than I did in the military. So these were my top items, and I made my decision based on that. Do you notice the difference between making the decision to stay in the Navy for another 9 years, not liking the have? Okay, but I would stay in there. Why? I was fearful that if I got hurt, then I wouldn't have medical insurance. You see that? That's cowardly. So don't make decisions based on fear. Make decisions based on emanating out. So now you can see, so no fear decisions, and anything that pops up, right? So you're like mind mapping. You're drawing all over the place. When something comes up, look at it and say, hey, where am I with that? What does that look like? You know? Okay. And so I made the decision, I can be elite in anything. I can do the same elite stuff on my terms. In other words, I can still jump out of airplanes and dive and stuff like that. I can train sales teams, more control, more income, and have a family, help people, not hurt people. Those were my decision points. That's what threw out my intention long and strong. Okay? Big zip line. Okay? And that's why I'm here 32 years later, still playing this game because I love it. Okay. All right. So, all right. So I use mind maps very often. What could I be? What could I do? What could I have? And it doesn't matter if I'm planning to have another kid. Like whatever it is, it just is always something that I just go to. Okay. So the second question was, how quickly can one be or become? Right? So I'd done a video on be, and I showed this. This is the pipeline. This is the big topic. This is what we're going to do, but there's subcomponent responsibilities within it. And you need to become a lead creator, right? So how do you get leads? Well, you have to run advertisements, or you just reach in your phone and you say, okay, so I know this person, I know this person, I know this person, right? And so, but sometimes you'll want to advance and grow bigger, and you would need to become somebody who could generate leads, or you have enough money to hire them. All right. So, and then you do lead generation. You have a lead or you don't have a lead. And that means you just expand the beingness a little bit. Say, what else can I learn? And then you do, and you have a lead, or you don't. And then you just do it again. So what her question was, is how long does it take to become? Now, she didn't say just for lead generations, or was she talking about this whole thing? This has to do, and it's a great question, it has to do with how rapidly you get to these actions as opposed to getting lost. Okay, in the last video that I did, I showed this laser show that goes like this. And instead of having like a really, really straight beam, straight out, right? Like, so it's a straight line as opposed to a big wide thing, right? When somebody is dialed in and focused, they're not going to mess around. They're just going to jump right on in, and they're going to say, all right, I need to be this. All right, so what do I need to do? And then you start learning. You take it up. You pick it up and you run fast, okay? You run into a confusion point, search out all your assets. You know, like who can help me with this? You know, my upline didn't return my call. Don't whine, just jump to somebody else. Go to a meeting, walk up afterwards and ask the person, what ads do you run? In other words, that was the way that I did it, and it was very rapid, okay? It took me 5 years to get to a 6-figure a month income. Okay. And it took me 2 years to double. No, I think I was at about 50,000. Okay. A month. So now you get the idea. I'd never done sales before, you know, like nothing at all. So now you get the idea that it has to do with how rapidly and intention you are. Like I was locked on that thing like a laser beam because this started the whole pipeline. Everything depended upon right here. You get this idea that don't ask so much, how long does it take? Because I can't answer that question because I've seen some people who take a week to get a postcard out. Okay, just they don't have that intention to drive something through all barriers, all problems, all distractions. They just, you know, like they're just zigzagging through life and they're not directing. Okay. They're, you know, like doing that kind of thing and jumping over hurdles and crawling underneath, I don't know, wire. So that's the big thing here. I don't have to go through all of those. And so I just wanted to give you the idea that it isn't a function of time. It is a function of your intention and how much you put into it. Is that a word? Hey, thanks so much for watching. And so if you like this video, share it with somebody, comment and give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Thanks so much.